Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we get set for race number 23 of the season 5 of the NCRA Hersheys Cup Series. Continuing on our chase towards the chase for the championship, getting ever close to finding out who will be the 16 drivers that will duke it out for our 10-race postseason. We are getting set here today for the run of the Peak 200 at Pikes Peak International Raceway. This racetrack very important in terms of the playoff grid. As a matter of fact, last season we saw a driver win here who didn't even make the playoffs, and that was actually L Alvarise, who comes in as the defending winner. It was the only time these drivers have been at Pikes Peak, and L Alvarise, by the way, starts this race off from the 8th position. He also comes into this race situated 32nd in the points. There is an opportunity today that he could go to victory lane for the first time this season, work his way into the top 30 in points, and we would have to start talking about him as a potential candidate for being in the hunt for the championship. But look at who else we've got up here in the first two rows. We last week at Daytona saw the first Retro Racing Enterprises win this season, with J Sandfer winning at Daytona International Speedway, while his two teammates also are winless this season, and they want to get their first win of the year. And they're lined up on the front row. J Shelton there, the Tampa Bay Rays Chevrolet. She comes into this race currently situated in the 17th position in points. K Mathews, on the other hand, is outside the top 30 in the standings in 35th, but both of them desperate for a win to try and have a chance of making the playoffs. Talk about desperation. How about the defending champion of this series, M Haas, rolling off from the 3rd position here today. Now, M Haas has actually put together some good runs in the past couple of weeks. Our biggest story surrounding him for most of the season was he was outside the top 30 in the points. He's now 26th in the standings, so a win could lock himself up a spot of trying to defend his title at Auto Club, at least to make the playoffs this season. And alongside of him, J Gardner. Gardner was a two-time winner last season, but he's still looking for his first win this season, and he has been on a huge momentum skid in the last 3 to 4 weeks. He now finds himself all the way down 23rd in the point standings, lost 8 spots last week at Daytona, trying to rebound here today at Pikes Peak. It could be a day of rebounding. It could be a day of maybe another driver joining the likes of Trent Dunham, Dallas McIntosh, Sean Gallighan, Chris Dodd, and Anthony McCrury as a two-time winner this season. We've also got some other interesting stories coming into this race. Some drivers that are down there near that cut line still with one win this season or multiple wins. Anthony McCrury dropped down to 27th in points after Daytona last week, and D Poteet, who was a 3-time winner last season, 1-time winner this season at Phoenix, he's down to 28th in the point standings, and both of them with very mediocre gaps between themselves and that 30th position in the points.
Drivers, start your engine!
Command has been given. We've got 50 laps of racing here today, so our stages are going to be as follows: 15, 15, and 20. So completions of laps 15, 30, and 50 is when the stage points will be awarded. Let's give you top 10. The points coming into today's race presented by Golden Corral. Trent Dunham is the points leader by almost a full race, 43 points over Cole Baker. Dallas McIntosh is in 3rd, Daniel Guilbert 4th, Caleb Farrell is 5th. J Sandfer, after his win, jumped up to 6th. Sean Gallighan is 7th, K Shearer 8th, 9th is Chris Dodd, and Blaine Key still hangs there in the top 10. Drivers just on the outside looking into the top 10 in points. B Allan is 11th, Emmanuel Hartnett 12th, B Gonzales 13th, K Tellier 14th, and Z Fitzwater in 15th. This race, along with 3 other races, will help us determine who's going to be in that 16-driver playoff grid. Time to find out what's going to happen here. It's Pikes Peak. Green flag's out. Let's roll. Shelton might have a challenge here. M Haas getting very close to that left rear quarter panel. Now going to get to the inside as they're 3 wide further back there. That's Sandfer, Keys, and Baker. And up front they're going to be 3 wide. Cody Smart puts J Gardner in the middle, and Shelton's fading fast. M Haas is going to lead the first lap of the race here, but now J Gardner is going to take a look to the inside for the top position. And he will clear coming out of turn number 2. Caution is out for the first time. They were able to complete 1 lap anyway, but the yellow flag rears its ugly head here, and hopefully this is not going to be what we had in our race at Gateway yesterday in the Pizza X Series race, where we're going to have the caution flag waving more than we have green flag laps. Looks like an incident into turn 1 as Johnny Gardner just took the yellow flag. And how about that? In 2 laps, J Shelton dropped from the pole all the way outside of the top 10. And it looks like Blaine Keys may have been the reason for this caution. James McCloud there as well, and they're stacking up here on the front straightaway. Looks like they all slowed up in time. Nobody wrecked. Brooke Allen's got some front-end damage there on the Olive Garden Chevrolet. I don't know if that was a result of the stack-up or not. Cole Baker and Joshua Michaels coming to pit road, along with Charles Sanford. Keith Batson's on the pit lane. Got some damage on J Baskinger. Kyle Mathews and Cody Smart, they're on pit road. I think these are regularly scheduled stops for a couple of these drivers. Johnny Gardner just gave up the race lead along with M Haas, and that turns the lead over to 2-time winner and former champion Chris Dodd. And right behind him, the only former winner at this track, L Alvarise, his teammate, lines up in second. Let's take a look and see what brought out the caution for the first time here today at Pikes Peak. Well, we saw Blaine Keys in that 3-wide situation earlier with Cole Baker and Charles Sanford. Well, those two are ahead of him, and now it's going to be a 4-wide situation. Keith Batson down low, then it's Gallighan, Keys up to McCloud at the outside wall, and that's just not going to work. I think Gallighan's going to crowd Blaine Keys right here. There's nowhere that McCloud can go. He's already up and in the wall. And there you see him, right there, gonna hook the 44 around, gonna hook the 42 around, and gonna hook the 51 around. Everybody else does a nice job getting to the inside line to avoid, but there you see just kind of a 3-driver synchronized spin there in turn number 1, and that was just crowding, trying to be able to find a way to make a line into turn 1 while stuck in a 4-wide situation. That's what brought out the caution for the first time here today, rather a bit of a light caution, so hopefully all 3 of these drivers will be able to continue, and we will get ready now for the restart. Chris Dodd is now out in front in the 88. And indeed, it was a light caution. All drivers that started this race will be taking the green flag for this restart. Nobody out of the race. For Chris Dodd, we're getting to the point of the season where now you can kind of confirm some drivers in the chase for the championship, and Chris Dodd coming to this race is 9th in the points. He has right now roughly a 100-point advantage between himself and 30th in the point standings cut line. So I think by next week we can say he is confirmed locked into the chase for the championship. So not a bad idea, staying out, playing some strategy, getting a bonus point for leading the lap, because that will continue to help him increase his cushion between himself and 30th in the point standings. L Alvarise right behind him there in second place. Benjamin Miles currently in third with Brandon Gonzales and Levi McIntyre. That's your top 5. You got Alvarise and Gonzales, McIntyre. You got Baskinger there in 6th, Llamas in 7th, Shelton in 8th. A lot of drivers up here in the top 10 want to get their first win of the season as the green flag is back in the air. And I wonder if maybe these two had this worked out here where L Alvarise was going to be able to try and get by Chris Dodd for the race lead here on this restart. No, maybe not. Chris Dodd doesn't seem like he's willing to give the top position up to his teammate. At least for the moment, the two of them are going to continue that battle here. Out of turn number 4, Chris Dodd got a better run on the high side, but Alvarise is still to his left rear quarter panel and will still be to his inside when they get into turn 1. Brandon Gonzales there in the 23, waiting to see which line opens up. Of course, Brandon Gonzales with that super huge winless streak coming into today's race. He is now up to a 124 race winless streak. Stretching all the way back to season 2. It looks like Brandon Gonzales is coming to pit road. Indeed he is. So apparently, I don't know if that's a regularly scheduled stop for him or not. But now Chris Dodd and his teammate L Alvarise, 1 and 2. That gives 3rd place to Benjamin Miles. Battle is on for 4th between Levi McIntyre and K Shearer, but the caution flag is out once again. Anthony McCurry just jumped up to the 8th position, so well-needed run for the 61 car. Mentioned him down near that 30th position of the point standings cut line as the caution flag is out. And Jake Baskinger and Sean Gallighan were both on pit road just a moment ago as well, and I believe they are going to fall off the lead lap, as probably will Brandon Gonzales. And it looks like maybe J Gardner was the reason for this most recent caution. Driver who was out in front showing the way for a couple of laps here at Pikes Peak. So let's take a look at a replay of what happened. Is Chris Dodd going to come to pit road? No, he is not. So he stays out still. And looks like will probably lead us back to the green flag when we go back. After this, our second caution of the day. Like an incident maybe out of turn 4. And another 4 wide, almost 5 wide situation, this time in turn number 4. G Sydnor way up the track. J Gardner to his outside and just run each other out of room. Cole Baker and Joshua Michaels, along with J Arndt, also got a piece of that incident. Blaine Keys just barely get through, along with Quentin Moore. And I don't think anybody else wrecked further up here. As you saw, J Baskinger, Cody Llamas, and Brandon Gonzales all on pit road. We know S Gallighan was also on the pit lane, so I believe all those drivers are going to lose a lap due to this untimely yellow flag. And that's what brought out the caution, second time here today at Pikes Peak. Green flag will come back out on lap 14, which means we'll have 2 laps to go here in our first stage of the day. Chris Dodd and L Alvarise, I thought, were going to kind of do what Trent Dunham and Blaine Keys did last season at M&M's, where Trent Dunham was going to try to do everything he could to help a teammate out and be able to make the playoffs. I thought Chris Dodd was going to let L Alvarise by for the race lead, but no, those two battled at least for this first portion of this race. And they will line up 1-2 coming back to the green flag over Benjamin Miles, K Shearer, and Daniel Guilbert. Then it's Tim Walsh, Hartnett, Shelton, Farrell, and McIntire top 10. We've got drivers that are off the lead lap: Baskinger, Gallighan, Llamas, and Gonzales. They were all on pit road. And Zachary Fitzwater is the first car out of the race. And the reason for retiring, apparently, the word is it was a tire issue. I'm not exactly certain what that means. Look at this as these drivers trying to get back on the tail end lead lap. Gallighan, Baskinger, Gonzales, and Llamas, and they're doing a pretty good job of it, pushing the race leaders up to the top side. And Daniel Guilbert might be the one to capitalize as how he's down at the bottom of the racetrack, and he's going to try and get up here to L Alvarise. Alvarise, though, with the crossover move on his own teammate for the race lead. Nice move there by the Aaron's Dream Machine, side by side with Chris Dodd. Now they're going to split J Baskinger 3 wide. 3 wide into the corner. Alvarise trying to outbrake his teammate Chris Dodd, who's been good in that middle groove, and he'll be good off the corner. It's going to be Chris Dodd back to the top position. Alvarise back now fighting for second with Daniel Guilbert. And at the current point in time, Brandon Gonzales, S Gallighan, they are back on the lead lap as J Gardner on pit road once again in the 55. Look who's jumped up to 4th, Emmanuel Hartnett there in the 83. Was on a bit of a hot streak, but that hot streak kind of cooled off after Daytona last week. Now trying to bounce back once again. Hartnett 12th in the point standings, trying to pick up his first win of the season. And Chris Dodd may have some difficulty up here because they're racing side by side between Brandon Gonzales and S Gallighan. Both of them kind of trying to create a wall here so Chris Dodd can't get by them and put him off the lead lap again. Both of them really wanting a caution flag here, but so far not getting it. Saw Chris Dodd was really good in the middle groove off turn 4. Let's see if he's any better down low in the inside line. Looks like he's just about as good. That 88 can go just about anywhere he wants it to. And now he drives to the inside of S Gallighan, trying to put him back off the lead lap. Keep in mind, that is a potential championship competitor he is lapping right there, as both Gallighan and Chris Dodd have 2 wins this season. Alvarise there in second. Here's the battle on for 3rd place. Remember we talked about Anthony McCrury needing a good run. Well, how about the guy running currently in 5th place right there? The Dragon Ball Z Chevrolet. Dylan Poteet came into this race the lowest in the top 30 in points with a win in 28th position. Really needs a good run here today, get himself away from that cut line and still keep his playoff chances alive. And right now, up inside the top 5, now trying to get the 4th position away from the 4 of Daniel Guilbert. Now sets his sights on Emmanuel Hartnett for 3rd place. Coming into this race, Dylan Poteet was 13 points ahead of 30th in standings, which currently was held by J Arndt, who is actually working his way up through the field right now. There he is. He just got by Dallas McIntosh for the 8th position. Now looking for 7th on Benjamin Miles, and a little contact right there between the right front and the left rear of the 05 and the 25. They keep it together though, but Benjamin Miles got way out of shape after that slight bit of contact, and now J Arndt going to try and go to the inside of his teammate J Baskinger, who is currently off the lead lap. So J Arndt now up to the 7th position, now going to try and set his sights on reeling in K Shearer, who in turn is battling side by side right now. Well, not side by side, but battling for the 5th position with D Guilbert. So good runs right now for the CJ Racing cars. You've got Chris Dodd out in front. L Alvarise now back in 3rd as he just lost 2nd place to D Poteet. K Shearer now moves up to the 5th position. And T Walch, the other driver, is currently right now holding down the 10th position. So all 4 of the CJ Racing cars having a good outing here today at Pikes Peak. Charles Sandfer, last week's winner, is now up to the 11th position with Blaine Keys right behind him in 12th. So Sandfer, we talked about the momentum he had after getting a good run at Watkins Glen, had a good run at Rockingham, a good run at Daytona, and now a good run here at Pikes Peak. Is T Walch going to make the move on Benjamin Miles? That is going to be for the 9th position as Blaine Keys kills 2 birds, maybe 3 birds with 1 stone. Here comes the 42 car trying to crack the top 10 as well. And keep in mind, Blaine Keys was the driver that was one of 3 that brought out our first caution of the day, so what a comeback for him. Here's a battle going on now for the 5th position. K Shearer has it. J Arndt wants it and is willing to move K Shearer out of the way if necessary to get it. Saw J Arndt make some contact with Benjamin Miles earlier in a battle for 7th, so he's not unwilling to move someone out of the way for position. Hartnett right now solidly in the 4th position, trying to reel in L Alvarise for what would be 3rd. Meanwhile, D Poteet having to deal with S Gallighan, who is now a lap down as Chris Dodd was able to get around both himself and Brandon Gonzales. And now Poteet will try to get to the inside of S Gallighan and now sets his sights on the race leader, Chris Dodd. Believe it or not, he actually gained some ground there too, and he'll gain a lot more because the caution flag is out. Probably the last thing Chris Dodd wanted to see. Maybe the last thing D Poteet wanted to see, as he had a very good long run car, it appeared there, and was reeling in Chris Dodd. And now these guys will head for pit road. Shaping up to be a pretty good battle for the race lead right there. And it looks like we're going to have another restart just nearing the end of our 2nd stage. Is anybody going to be willing to risk it and stay out? No, all the leaders are coming in. It's a good long green flag run right there. Let's get to the 88 of Chris Dodd and see if he's going to be able to win the battle off pit road. Coming down pit road as the race leader. Pulls into his stall. Let's see what the strategy is going to be here. Is it a full 4-tire stop? Do they go with 2 tires? Right side's on. Seemed a little slow, but he's down and away. But it was slow because D Poteet is going to win the battle off pit road. Looked like they were a little slow there on that pit stop for Chris Dodd. Poteet will come out with the lead. Chris Dodd in 2nd. And J Arndt, who maybe had one of the strongest cars in that last run, he'll be 3rd over Dallas McIntosh and McIntosh's teammate, Blaine Keys. And look who came out in 6th, K Batson. This is going to be a very interesting restart when we go back green, as now the lap down cars are coming to pit road. So it looks like D Poteet will be the race leader when we go back green. Let's take a look and see what brought out our 3rd caution of the day. Wow, this one's huge. 2-time winner Anthony McCrury is the reason for this most recent caution right here. Car just didn't seem to turn, and he had K Tellier all over his right rear. And when he goes up, she hooks him around to the outside wall. Both cars make some pretty significant contact with the outside safer barrier. And we're going to have to see if the 61 of McCrury is going to be able to continue, because like we said, he also, like D Poteet, needed a good run today. He came into this race 21 points ahead of 30th in the standings. And we know that J Arndt is having a good run here today, so this could put Anthony McCrury back in another perilous position just a couple weeks after picking up his second win of the season at Rockingham. Getting ready to go back green, D Poteet will have to contend with traffic on this restart. J Gardner did not come to pit road, and so therefore he will restart behind the pace car and ahead of Poteet. He will also have the drivers on the inside line to contend with Gonzales, Gallighan, Llamas, and Baskinger, who all are still a lap down after that untimely second caution of the day. It'll be D Poteet the leader, Chris Dodd second, J Arndt in third, Dallas McIntosh in fourth. Fifth is Blaine Keys with K Batson in sixth, Brooke Allen seventh. Eighth is Charles Sandfer. Ninth is Dylan Young, and Quentin Moore completes the top 10. Out of the top 10, 4 drivers have yet to go to victory lane. Arndt in third, Keys in fifth, Allen in seventh, and Moore in 10th. Green flag back in the air here at Pikes Peak. And next time by is the completion of our second stage, so who's going to get those valuable 10 points as well as a playoff point? It's like right now it might be D Poteet, who's kind of boxed in. Nobody able to go anywhere at this current point in time with all the traffic surrounding these lead lap cars. And it will indeed be D Poteet who will win this stage. So that pit stop was very important for the 31 team, no doubt about that. 10 stage points for him. That'll get him even further away from that 30th position of the point standings cut line, and also gives him a playoff point towards the postseason. Meanwhile, battle is on for second. Chris Dodd faded, and now it's teammates that'll settle it for second place. McIntosh has it. Blaine Keys wants it. J Arndt right there, and there's K Batson in the 39 as well. He already picked up his first career Hersheys Cup Series win at Kansas earlier on this season. He wants career win number 2. Matter of fact, it's kind of ironic. He's battling with J Arndt right now. Both drivers picked up their first career wins at Kansas. K Batson this season, J Arndt last season. It's McIntosh now going to try and make his way by Cody Llamas. And look at Quentin Moore. Restarted 10th, and just like that, he's up to the 3rd position. That 89 car is flying right now. So now Daniel Guilbert looks for the 4th spot off K Batson, and now James Richardson in the 11 is up here in this fight. That Toyota Camry picked up 7 spots last week after a runner-up finish to Charles Sandfer at Daytona, up to 24th in points. Looking for another good run here today. Battle for second. Quentin Moore takes the spot. We've already had 2 rookies go to victory lane this season. Alex Drayton at Las Vegas and K Shearer at Dover. Quentin Moore trying to become the 3rd. Quentin comes into this race 25th in points, so if he picks up a victory, he would be in the playoffs conversation. But right now, D Poteet enjoying the view out in front. Last season, he was a 3-time winner. He had all 3 of his wins by the time we got to the summer race at Daytona. We have passed the summer race at Daytona last week. Poteet with only 1 win, but looking for his 2nd one here today. And the only thing I'm wondering is, are we going to end up seeing this thing go into a fuel strategy race if we go green the rest of the way? Can these drivers make it on fuel? They had a 2-tire stop, and with 2 tires, you cannot get the tank completely full of fuel. You have to basically take a 4-tire stop to spend that amount of time to get the tank completely filled up. So will we see a fuel strategy race come into play in this one? Quentin Moore in 2nd. J Gardner, his teammate, was trying to do all he could to play some defense and hold up Daniel Guilbert, but Guilbert now makes a hold of the inside of the 55. Guilbert in 3rd, Richardson in 4th, and McIntosh right now in 5th, trying to close in on the 11. We saw Jessica Shelton starting the pole, and then she faded back. Well, now she's charging back up to the front once again, just bypassed Blaine Keys. That was for the 8th position, so the Tampa Bay Rays Chevy all of a sudden wound up and ready to go and laying down some very fast lap times. Now closing in on rookie Cody Smart. That would be for 7th. Just behind the Lincoln Continental of Keith Batson, who is solidly positioned in 6th. A well-needed run for Keith Batson. He's doing well in points. He's 18th in the standings. However, he was 13th in the points heading into the Daytona race. So he dropped 5 spots after last week's race at the Superspeedway. Dylan Poteet might not want to have his spotter telling him the time intervals between himself and Quentin Moore, because they are closing. Poteet got around Baskinger, now trying to get around Brandon Gonzales, but that time by, Quentin Moore gained 0.3 of a second on the 31 car. And there you can see now he is right there. He's still got to get around Jake Baskinger, so depending on how quickly he can dispose of the 5 may depend on how quickly we may have a battle for this race lead. Poteet not seeming to be able to get around Brandon Gonzales, and now Baskinger goes to the inside of Poteet trying to get his lap back. And that's going to open the door down low if Baskinger completes the pass for Quentin Moore. Side by side between Baskinger and Poteet. This is not for position, however, the 89 is. And they are closing on J Bryant in the 22 as well, so throw more traffic into the equation. And now Daniel Guilbert has been able to join these two for this battle for the lead. And Quentin Moore to the inside of Poteet. He will take the race lead out of turn number 2. Here comes Guilbert for 2nd place. And look at the mosh pit up here in front of these race leaders. Crossed over by Poteet to take the race lead back. And Daniel Guilbert, will he try and go 3 wide here down to turn 1? He's looking to the left rear of Poteet. Thinks better of it. Poteet still to the inside of Quentin Moore. Here comes Richardson into the equation. Gilbert's gonna make it 3 wide. Gets into the left rear of Poteet. And Shelton's up to 4th. Make that 5th. She's getting into the conversation now. With less than 10 to go. Poteet with the lead. Gilbert's there, Moore is there, Richardson, Shelton, they're all in the equation. Shelton goes 3 wide with Richardson and Moore. She's going for 3rd as Gilbert goes for the lead. And look at Shelton, big run down the back straightaway. Will she go 3 wide into 3? You bet she will. She's got nothing to lose. She needs a win to make it into the playoffs. Try to make it Retro Racing Enterprises back-to-back week wins. She's out in front now with 7 laps to go here at Pikes Peak. What a power move by the pole sitter. They're now 3 wide for 2nd. Moore, Richardson, Guilbert, and Dylan Poteet, who was dominating out in front, may have just become yesterday's news as he's dropped back to the 5th position. And then it's a long gap back to 6th place McIntosh, 7th place Cody Smart, 8th place Keith Batson. It may come down between these 5 drivers up here at the front. Shelton, Richardson, Moore, Guilbert, and Poteet. Who wants it more? Shelton now trying to put traffic between herself and 2nd place. Gonna go 3 wide again this time with Baskinger and Gonzales. Wow, that 02 car is driving it harder into the corner than I've seen any driver do since we followed Sean Arndt back during the last green flag run. Shelton has got a strong car in the entry to the corners. And she has now put 2 lap machines between herself and the 2nd place car of James Richardson. Richardson now going to try and get by Gonzales, but then he'll have to get by Baskinger before he can try and set his sights on Shelton, and Gonzales is not going to be an easy task. Sean Gallighan up ahead of Jessica Shelton. No alliances with any of the drivers up inside the top 5 right now. As it's 4 laps to go, 3 when Shelton hits the stripe this next time by. Retro Racing Enterprises got their first win of the season last week at Daytona, courtesy of Charles Sandfer. Shelton trying to make it back-to-back weeks in which an RRE car goes to victory lane. Richardson has cleared Gonzales. Now has to deal with Baskinger and lost a little bit of ground that time, about 2/10 to Shelton. Needs to make really quick work here of the Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet if he's even going to have a ghost of a shot of challenging Shelton for this race win. Shelton out in front, ticking away laps as quickly as she can. 2 laps to go when she hits the stripe, this time by. It's been a seesaw day for Shelton. Started on the pole, faded outside the top 10 after lap 1, was back as far as 31st position, and now out in front with a chance of winning today's race at Pikes Peak. Shelton has 2 career Hersheys Cup Series victories. She took the checkered flag at Darlington back in, or actually no, 3 I should say, victories. She took the checkered flag at Darlington twice, the checkered flag at Daytona once. Never has won at Pikes Peak. That's going to change here today. Through turn 2, down the back straightaway here on the white flag lap. Richardson hasn't even yet gotten around Baskinger. Shelton could coast through 3 and 4 and probably win this race. It's coast to coast for Shelton. Pole to win the Pikes Peak. The Peak 200 at Pikes Peak goes to the 0-2 of Jessica Shelton. Back-to-back wins in 2 weeks for Retro Racing Enterprises. And Shelton, with that victory, may have just locked herself up a spot in the chase for the championship this season. Came into this race 17th in the points and picks up the victory here today. Didn't look like one of the strongest cars in the field at the beginning of this race, but boy, came alive in the second half. And Shelton follows up her teammate Sandfer's win at Daytona with a win the following week here at Pikes Peak. How about that? Retro Racing Enterprises already has a championship under their belt with K Mathews, but neither Shelton nor Sandfer have won a Hersheys Cup Series championship. And the standings are now official. It'll be Shelton with the win. Richardson brings it home in second. Quentin Moore gets rookie of the race, finishing in third. Gilbert in fourth. Poteet with the well-needed run in fifth. Sixth place is going to be Benjamin Miles. That was another driver that actually could have used a good run today, as he dropped 4 spots last week at Daytona down to, 16th in the standings. So great run for him. He's going to get a top 10 in 6th. Dallas McIntosh continues his consistent runs as he gets 7th. 8th place for G Sydnor. Well-needed run for him with Joshua Michaels there in 9th. Michaels came into this race still outside the top 30 in the point standings. 33rd to be exact. This may move him back into the top 30 in points with K Shearer completing the top 10. Then it was Cody Smart, Keith Batson, Levi McIntyre, Blaine Keys, and Emmanuel Hartnett the top 15 with Matt Haas, Alex Drayton, Tim Walsh, L Alvarise, who was up in second at one point. He's going to finish the day out in 19th with Dylan Young completing the top 20. Anthony McCrury, we talked about him needing a good run to stay up in the top 30 in points. He got 24th. We'll have to see where that situates him. Charles Sanford dropped back to 26th, and J Arndt, who was one of the strong cars at one point here, dropped back to 27th. But what about Chris Dodd? All the way back to 30th position after being out in front and leading a good portion of this race. 32 cars finished on the lead lap. Gallighan was the last of those. Baskinger, Brandon Gonzales, J Bryant, J Gardner, and Cody Llamas all finished a lap down or more. N Hudson out of the race due to a mechanical issue. We didn't see that, but a camshaft issue put him behind the wall before this race ended. And also out of the race due to a tire problem was Zachary Fitzwater. Telling you what, guys, I mean, this race in the books, we've got 3 more races before we determine who's going to be in the playoffs, and those 16 spots are not a easy gimme for any of these drivers, it seems, at this point. It is really going to come down to crunch time. It's going to be a really exciting regular season finale at M&M's, and we still got some other races in between this race and M&M Super Speedway to determine even more if we're going to have some more drivers put their name into the ring for a potential postseason spot in the playoffs. But that is going to do it here today from Pikes Peak. Shelton with the win. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and become part of the crew today. The upcoming 3 weeks as we show you your rookie points and overall points heading into next week. The 3 weeks that head us for the final weekends of the regular season. Next week, all 3 series head to Hillside, a track that is a short track but brings on the characteristics of a super speedway. 3x3x3 wide racing, and they keep it together. Then the following week, it's only trucks and Hersheys action at the dirt track of DuQuoin. Then the following week, all 3 series will determine who will be the playoff drivers, with our regular season finale weekend at M&M's Super Speedway. Hope you'll tune in for all that as the chase towards the chase for the championship continues on here on the NNSCRA Sports Channel. Offline racing at its best.